What's up, Bitcoin Radio? It's that time again. It's the Bitcoin Hour. I'm your host, Joe Blackburn. Welcome to Bitcoin Radio, where Bitcoin lives. And today, we're going to bring on one of the most favorite, badass, whatever you want to call it, shows we've ever done on Crypto Coin Trader. We're going to have a discussion with the one and only David Hoverman. But before we get that, I want to give a special shout out to a lot of the people who've been listening. We crossed over some pretty nice, I guess you would call them landmarks or whatever you would say. Just, with certain downloads amount, we crossed over the thousands and, the unique listeners. I just want to make sure that everybody listening knows how much I personally appreciate that and what it means to, Bitcoin Radio as a whole. The more listeners we have, the more credibility we can bring to this podcast, the better the guest is going to be, the better that, we're going to have an opportunity to have a voice. And, of course, people like me and the guest today, David Hoverman, who's guest hosting with me today more than anything. We've been around crypto for some time, and we've got a chance to see a lot of the ways that people interact with one another. We've got a chance to understand how the basic trader thinks, why people enter the space to begin with, what type of person it is that is more susceptible to trading compared to holding. There's just so much of a psychological barrier for some people in certain ways, and I'm really looking forward to touching base with David on that today. And obviously, like I said, he's about to be on here shortly, but I do want to introduce David from a personal perspective as much as anything else. He is co-founder of Synq. He's been a moderator on CCT for some time, but me and David, we go back almost 2 years now as far as our professional relationship together, but we started becoming friends a little before that, I guess right around 2 years ago or so. But David has been, by my side or around me or standing next to me in some capacity since just before Christmas, I think 2017. And when he really started getting involved in the Crypto Coin Trader group, he immediately became a friend of mine. We just share so many similarities, whether it be sports, whether it be crypto in general, just the basic stuff, to even our faith and who we hang out with and why we do certain things, and our credibility and our morals and our ethics that are standstill, that they are immovable. And there are very few people in the space I've been able to relate with like on that. And I try to surround myself. I say there's very few. We've been lucky to have quite a fortunate group that we've been able to hang out with, and I think we all, for the most part, share at least a basic foundation of these same ethics and morals. But regardless, I'm going to go ahead and bring David on. But David's a friend of mine, and I've been looking forward to having the show. And for those of you who remember, we had a bet a few months ago, and he's actually here right now. He's on mute, so he can't say nothing. He's actually laughing. I can see him. But we had a bet a few months ago, and it was really an honest and fun bet. Nobody actually knew what was going to happen. I guessed this way, he guessed that way. But it was back when Bitcoin was around $4,000, $3,800, $4,000, and Bitcoin was making that decision. Was it going to go back down to 3K and maybe even go under, or are we going to go and head up north? And yours truly, Joe Blackburn, happened to be, quote unquote, the lucky one, right? I actually knew, I'm not going to lie. I knew for a fact. And I was right. I mean, prove me otherwise, right? David can't say anything still, and I think it's funny. Anyways, all right, we'll get into that and more here shortly, but let me go ahead and bring David on. All right, Mr. Haverman, you are live. What's up, brother?
Man, first of all, thank you for the warm and kind introduction, man. It was actually you were mainly and a few others way back when, early in the CCT days, where I was talking with you guys behind the scenes and everything, and like giving you my analysis and just doing what I do. And finally, you were like, dude, quit doing this behind the scenes stuff and start getting out in front of people and be a part of the space. You really pushed me that way. So I have to say, I know I appreciate it, because it's, you gave me the ability early on to take a hobby, I guess you could say, though I was spending more time in crypto and studying and all this rather than working. And, here I am today. I don't have a job per se, like I do, but when you do what you love, is it really a job?
Exactly right. Well, David, I'm glad you're on today, man. It means a lot that you're here, first off. But secondly, you're one of those people who you say you gave me the ability, Joe. That's actually completely false. Every ability that you have, you've created on your own, or you were God given that. And I may have given you some confidence at one point, but you've earned everything you've got, David. I'm proud of you, man.
Appreciate that. And here we are, out of the out of the bear season, if you will, at least when it comes to Bitcoin, still surviving, still here. And I'm looking back and all those shills and everything that were around in
Sure.
2017, 2016, and how many are still standing, you know?
Exactly right. No, it's, the people that started influencing people back in the 2015, 2016 year group, I remember like attaching myself to what they said as like God's word, right? It was
Sure.
so, comforting when I saw someone that I looked up to in the space and saw that they were buying this coin or that they also were supporting this coin. It would validate what I was doing or who I was, right? And how good I was
Sure.
getting at this. I mean, and keep in mind, folks, back in 2015, 2016, I was just starting to pay attention to crypto. I don't even want to pretend like in 2015 I was like hitting it hard or anything. 2016 was my awakening into the social. I mean, I was following some groups and stuff, but what I noticed early on was this was not like every coin was going up back then. The coins were starting to be
No.
created, but they still weren't like these. I mean, we're talking about 1 and 2 sat coins that weren't worth anything. Bitcoin was $800. I
Yep.
mean, it was maybe one day they'll be worth a penny or something along those lines. And wow, did they ever become worth a penny? Or multi-dollar or whatever it might have been. But it brings up a good point, David. And you've seen this space. I know that you got in a little bit after me socially, at least. On a larger
Yeah.
level. But you've watched this space grow up. And where do you think we are right now compared to 2017? Just as far as like mindset, do you think this is healthy where we're at?
I mean, I think I think we're on a path in the right direction. I think 2017 was good and bad for crypto as a whole. It
Sure.
was good because of the exposure and people actually really starting to dive in, understand the technology, understand, what blockchain is, what distributed ledger technology is. But then along the same lines, you had all the people trying to scam all the ICOs and everything like that, which I think is a natural progression early on in really any emerging technology. However, that being said, where we're at right now, I think is a good spot.
Y-
Um,
Yeah, I
there's
agree.
there's more people in crypto now than there was at the peak of 2017. I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, there's Bitcoin's half the price, and there's well more people that are still here. So,
For sure. You
you
know,
know,
yeah, that's absolutely true. And you make a great point there. But even more importantly, it's filled with people who have now experienced. Now, there's a lot of people who are new too, and I
yeah,
welcome new people. We don't want to stop bringing in new people, but new people come in with these expectations that we all had at some point, one way or the next. They're not wrong for having them. They're just naive.
yep,
And the other people who were successful or who had some success, especially in 2017, they were naive too, because most of them showed up around that time period. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that, I mean, I didn't start taking this space seriously until 2016, and then 2017 happened and it was just slowly starting to get that momentum, that traction. You were seeing coins go up 20, 30% in, an hour and then,
uh,
200, 300% in a day. And it just started becoming normal, and the idea that you could get rich really quickly, and I mean it wasn't just a thought, it was happening for people. And
oh yeah,
that resonates in people today. They're pissed off, they're aggravated, they think everybody got rich except them. Well, let me give everybody some news real quick. If you got rich in 2017 and didn't sell, you're not rich. There are very few people who just made every right decision that there is. And if you were like me, you took your gains from one ICO or token or coin, whatever you might have got into, and this is how I would do it, and I would immediately put it into one or two more. And I
yep,
didn't think anything at all about 5 Bitcoin. That was nothing, or 25 Ethereum, or 30 Ethereum. Of course, you got to keep in mind that Ethereum was, well, about the same price as it is today, but even cheaper, 50, 60, $8. I mean, it was as low as that in 2017. But getting back on point here is that
yeah,
we got to witness and we were part of, and we are living proof of that generation of crypto, right? And we always
yep.
say what crypto is, it passes a decade as a year, right? And or a year for us is really a decade in crypto. um,
At
exactly.
minimum,
So
it's insane.
and so I look at this right now, David, and of course I know you have a lot to say on this, and I'll let you speak here shortly. But we have matured as a market, but we've become overly cynical too. And that was one of the reasons why I did the ad bank episode in the previous episode I did before me and yours that will go live here shortly. But I just want people to see that there are use cases for this stuff. And somebody's going to be successful. Somebody is going to implement some sort of system that's going to allow these utility tokens, or even if they are securities, there's just some guidance that allows this to happen. The micro investing opportunities that are coming out of this, et cetera, that's happening and it's coming quickly. And I see it happening because I'm approached by so many different projects, and I'm starting to see really great projects again.
Yep. And that's one thing I'm really looking forward to, is seeing the good projects that can be and need to be out there. Honestly, I mean, unfortunately, we saw, on CoinMarketCap, there's over 2,800 altcoins listed. If you go by different sources, there was over 3,000 altcoins listed. Like, are all them going to be?
I think there's 5,000 that, in some capacity, are actually on an exchange.
Wow, okay, that's insane. But do not let that steer away from the actual good ones that are out there. AdBank's a great example. They built something. They're working with the right people. They're actually doing something. And look at Brave browser.
Yep.
That's, exactly. That's real use case.
Yep. I use it. I'm using it right now.
Exactly. So there are plenty of great use cases out there, and there are plenty of great altcoins out there. However, I think there are things that need to change and things that need to evolve in this space, which I think we're working towards. And I hope to see some of these new projects come out. And I'm a big fan of the STOs. Personally speaking, if I'm going to invest, I want equity in a company.
Sure.
So to me, I'm really looking forward to that and seeing how that market plays out, not only globally, but here in the United States for us. And I think it's going to be interesting. I think this next emergence of, we'll call it, Gen 2 or Gen 3 blockchain, whatever you want to call it, and the new projects hitting the market, I think it's going to be that gap between knowing that you're using blockchain, like going on either Delta or going on, one of those. Because when you're using blockchain, you have to know things. I think this next really successful swarm coming in is going to be, that emergence of the UX experience and utilizing blockchain technology and utilizing, maybe specific chain, a specific coin, whatnot, but not really knowing that you're doing it. And that's what's really going to push the global growth, I think, as a whole. If you can get Granny using it, not knowing that she's using it, you've done it. You've successfully integrated blockchain into everyday life.
Oh, and that's the single reason why I always bring up gaming. And people tell me, like, and even someone who I respect a lot, Ash is a friend of both of ours. She's made it clear that she does not share that sentiment. And I just think that people are thinking about it differently than how I think about it. It's the implementation of something that is necessary to do any transaction. It doesn't have to be a monetary transaction in this case, right?
Sure.
So if I want to move my Fortnite skin from my account and I want to sell it to somebody who has another account but wasn't playing Fortnite in season 2, right? I mean, how do you do that? How do you make sure that happens, and how do you make sure they're getting what they get? I just don't see another option out there without redoing all of gaming that would be as efficient as what the blockchain allows. And this is what I'm, I really hit this home with, people, especially around me that I'm close with, is that you're looking at a technology that people are viewing as, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I don't care. I'll make fun of Joe one day. They don't care if this thing works. And majority of people that we know in crypto, especially in crypto coin trader, is that it's all financially based interest. They want to make money off of this. So there's got to be a middle ground. There has to be some place where we can all meet where it makes sense. And that's where the micro investing goes. If you want to buy a house with a bunch of people or some sort of rental property, and it's $250,000, and you get 250 people who put $1,000 in a piece, you all have equity now, and you can turn that house or flip it or whatever it might be. To me, this should be the nature in which we are governing the blockchain as far as use cases go. If you're going to use or build a project, especially if you're in it to make money, well, it's got to make sense. It has to make sense.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't understand how people can look at the space and say altcoins are dead. Well, what the hell are you talking about? Altcoins haven't even started yet. And, to think about what the potential for investment opportunities are. And I want to give you an example real quick, David. And, I'm talking to, some family members of mine who have a company. and they're really interested in the blockchain, and there is potential. I've had some interest from the outside of my typical circle on people on business level that see a lot of potential in this. And this is, what if you were to create a token, okay? And that token, we'll just call it the real estate token, all right? And that real estate token, what happens is they're going to invest in $10 million worth of properties, David.
Mm-hmm.
And of that $10 million, that's the initial investment that they're going to purchase. So when you're going to get all these properties, you're going to start renting them out. Of course, there's some overhead, blah, blah, blah. Let's for the purpose of this, I can explain that on a later date. But for this, let's just say all the overheads is handled. All right. So you buy this token. There's 10 million tokens. They're, $1 a piece. And so Joe gets 1,000 of them. David gets 1,000 of them. And these tokens aren't to buy a house so that somebody can just live in. These tokens are to build or buy something that you can make money off of, not just in the return value of an investment property that's eventually going to, be worth more, but also for whoever's living in it and renting out the apartments, of this $10 million apartment complex. And so now you have this token that is not only increasing in value because the apartment complex you just bought is, but now this token is also giving dividends for every single month of rent that is coming. So you're paying off keep in mind this apartment complex is paid for. You got city taxes, you got state taxes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure, all that good stuff. But for this purpose, let's put that aside just because it complicates the overall idea. Now think about this use case for this micro investment of putting in, $1,000 for get 1,000 coins. I'm also getting, whatever 1,000 of 10 million of whatever percent that is, I'm getting that in return to put in my pocket. And that's coming, let's say it's in a smart contract where it's actually coming to me in Ethereum and not the real estate token, right? It's not the same token. Tell me why something like that would not only work, but why isn't it even around yet?
There are people starting essentially that same exact concept as what you're describing. There are people trying to do right now. And for me personally, this is a prime example. I have a real estate background. I started making my bones, for what it's worth. I got fired from my last job when I was 17 years old. I haven't worked for anybody since. That's that. It's real estate was great. And being able to do that specifically, not only in just, buying a building, if you will, or if you could buy an apartment building and start renting it out, generate revenue would be great. But even kind of more grandiose, if you've got a group of people that want to invest in a token, now let's get into real estate development. Well, let's go bare bones. Let's say, okay, we're gonna take this $10 million, we're gonna spread it over, 4 houses, brand new houses here, 1 apartment complex, and really start building it out to where you get equity on all these properties. You get, your ROI, your overheads covered, plus a dividend monthly, quarterly, or whatnot. And then you have the increasing amount of the properties that you're developing and what they could go for. And then all of a sudden, as you said before, the token's gaining in value because all the assets that are behind it are gaining value. On top of that, your dividends are increasing. So it's a win-win. I'm 100% on board with this. And quite frankly, if I wouldn't have taken my profits and dumped it into our company, I shouldn't say dumped it, but invested into our own company, that was one of the things I was going to the real estate market, even furthermore than just the investment and micro investing. Think about if you could take the custodianship of the house. Here's the house. It's on the blockchain. I don't need to spend the $400 or $500 to do the background, the records, and all this stuff to see where the liens are, if there are any liens. It's right there. So when it comes down to it, I can transfer it to the bank to hold it as leverage against a mortgage, whatnot, and go from there.
What you just said right there, David, is exactly why the transaction applicability is absolutely there, and it's coming, right?
Yep.
These major corporations like IBM and Walmart and all these huge successful industries that are implementing this in some capacity or experimenting with it, they see the value in that exact sense. The non-financially based interests that we don't necessarily find to be that big of a deal, right, as an investor goes. But that's the backbone of where this is going to lead. And as the acceptance of blockchain is implemented into IBM's technology, right, people are going to start recognizing, hey, this technology works here. How do you build upon that? Now, I also, when I see people talking shit about altcoins, yeah, sure, it's easy to do right now. But I want to see where these people are going to be. Yes, yes.
I do it.
And I know, obviously,
Yeah.
but this clearly is a flash in the pan moment as far as, whether these coins that exist right now are ever going to do anything. They may not, but
Sure.
it's the next evolutional stage of what is happening next. And this is why I'm just really careful about deterring people at all from at least paying attention. You don't want to just throw away everything. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know which one of these companies is secretly about to get bought up by IBM or by Walmart, or being used by one of these major coins or major projects that exist already. It's just happening. Like Engine's doing a great job of implementing what they want to do on the blockchain to companies that want to use the blockchain.
Exactly.
And they're gonna keep getting bigger and bigger. Anyways, so I could ramble on about this. Let's talk about why you're more pessimistic on altcoins at the moment, though, David, because I think a lot of people share that sentiment, obviously, and I don't disagree that it's not necessarily the best time. But I have personally started purchasing altcoins again.
So I'm looking at altcoins, and I'm doing the fundamentals. I'm really digging in, looking to the white paper. Not a lot of people know there's white papers. You can read them, and looking to what like they're building and stuff. And I see a lot of problems being solved that never existed before this coin came around, whether it's coin X, coin whatever,
Sure, that's a good point.
And I get it. Like, okay, this could be a problem in the future, so we're going to be thinking so far ahead that we're going to solve said problem, but that we're not addressing those. We're not addressing the right now, and that's where I kind of, I'm sitting here thinking, why isn't anybody addressing the UI UX issue? Why isn't anybody addressing custodianship? How do we get this technology into the hands of everybody, and what makes sense? What problems are here now? What problems can we solve now, and then go solve them rather than, going down the road. So, that's just from a fundamental standpoint. From a trading standpoint, I will buy and sell any altcoin that I legally can here in the United States,
Sure.
and trade them. But there are some out there, and I think there's a good amount. When I mean good amount, I mean like maybe 5 or 10% that are out there currently that have a real chance. They're solving issues, they're solving problems. As we said, basic attention token from their browser, Raven. I'm still a big fan of what they're doing. There are some even exchange tokens. Look what Binance is doing with their token, creating their own chain and everything like that.
Brilliant.
That's a sleeper kind of. It's gone through a retrace and such, but Link has gone through a huge retrace. In the month of July or September, whatever, but they're actually working with Google and actually being used by Google. One of the other ones, Komodo's being used by Amazon, not one of the fake partnerships where I use Amazon servers, so we're partners now, but like the company is actually using their technology. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
So it really is.
Yeah.
It's what credibility you get from something along those lines, right?
Amazon's doing okay. They've made some pretty good decisions. So
sure. Well, and I'm going to bring up one that a lot of people in CC are very familiar with. A lot of people have some very strong opinions about this coin. But I'm friends with Jed Taylor, from DBet, Decent.bet, and I watched them. Like their evolution into what they are today, it pissed off a lot of their holders, a lot of the initial investors. And, as someone who is a fan of Jed as an individual, as someone who I know he's doing some right things, we were all susceptible to looking at the space a little bit differently in 2017. Plus, people forget how much more involved the government's guidance became important. A lot of the people who stepped in early 2017 who were building projects, they were building projects back in 2014, 2015, 2016. They had these ideas, and it wasn't something that just came up with in one day. Keep in mind, yes, some of them did, but I'm talking about the early 2017 projects that, before the gold rush really even started in 2017 for a lot of these projects. And I was there when Jed introduced the project to both me and Ben Barlow. We were all in a group chat together, and when he was explaining it to me, just personally speaking, I'm from the South, so the idea of an online casino, et cetera, it's not overly appealing to me. I mean, I can just go to a casino here if I want to, first off, and I do enjoy a casino here and there, but
Sure.
it's not something that I just look at and say, this is what interests me. Also on a social level, it's not something I'm going to go and post about continuously or, put myself in a position to be looked at as some compulsive gambler, right? But I love sports betting. I love the sports handicapping at least, and it's fun, right?
Yeah.
And I know that me and
Yeah.
you both share this. And so when Jed first came out with the idea, it took me, I don't want to say it took me a long time to kind of think about this as something that could be really great, but that idea started resonating into me like, oh shoot, this is really what the blockchain is for. Like, this is how you can, say, F the man, you don't govern me in my decisions this way. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to wager with a friend and do it on the internet, right? And regardless of what the government's laws are, I shouldn't even be subjected to having my privacy, messed with. Like, what am I hurting? Who am I hurting, right? And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I know that there is a rebuttal to that can be on a moral and long-term psychological level that is
Sure.
for our own good, and I don't want to pretend like those things don't exist. However, I still believe I'm a grown human being. I'm accountable to myself and to my own family, and that is none of the business of anybody else except the government, unless I'm doing something that's hurting somebody else, right? Now,
Absolutely. Yep.
getting back onto the DBET side of things is that they've transitioned to this gaming platform that allows you to go on and play Fortnite or play Apex or play Hearthstone or a few others. I'm not a huge gamer. I don't play every game that they offer, but I do play a couple of them. And they have a awesome opportunity to put themselves on the map as far as, you're not betting your weight, you're actually risking based on your skill. So based on your skill, if you're good enough, you're not going to take somebody else's money. You're competing against yourself, and if you win, DBET's taking the chance that you're not, right?
Yep.
And I just love this concept. It gets around this idea that you're gambling or you're betting on against somebody else, and you're really just wagering on your skill set. And if you're doing, and you're getting rewarded, or you're losing the tokens of the from the DBET platform.
It's the esports have had an explosion these past, we'll call it 6 months, but now it seems like it's just building out exponential, and it's a great platform to be in if you can get in there, if you can get in early, solidify your use case, be used, solve issues. It's going to be great. But I mean, with DBET, going back to the beginning, like you said, I call me degenerate. I mean, I guess the difference between a successful gambler and a degenerate gambler is, their win percentage.
That's true. So true.
I mean, I loved gambling. I still do. Not as much. I'm actually have to work more, and the risk associated then was very minimal, considering I didn't have kids, didn't have a wife.
Absolutely.
And even though my wife's down with it, she actually helped me way back when. But when DBET came about, own part of the casino and be able to share in those profits. I mean, if Steve Wynn of Wynn Casinos came up to you and said, "Hey, guy, girl, whomever, if you invest whatever money you want to give me, I'll back the casino with it. And whatever percentage you have, whatever the casino makes, I'll hand you that percentage as a profit. And if you want it, cool. If you want to reinvest it, cool. If you just want to take it all and run, go ahead." Who would say no to that?
Exactly right.
Who? So that concept, to me, it was great. I was like, I don't have to be a bookie because it's illegal and whatnot. And, being able to have that situation available to anybody is something that could really revolutionize not only wealth, but the gaming industry, but then run into all the regulations and globally as well in the States. I mean, geez, I could only imagine what legal fees could be for that.
Of course. And, I know that DBET was doing everything they can. And ultimately, I'm pretty sure, with them being U.S. citizens and, most of them at least, and Jed is a really, really great guy. And he's done a lot for veterans. He's done a lot of really selfless things. And, the space, it could be really evil and nasty for people on a stage and who have a platform. But, it goes back to the same point that idea that DBET had, it would work. That would work. Because
100%.
people keep going to a casino for a reason. They like the opportunity for chance, and they're willing to risk a certain amount to potentially be rewarded. Well, guess what? What is crypto trading, David?
The same exact thing.
The
It's
same exact thing.
math, chance, probabilities. That's it.
And if is there a chance to win? Absolutely. Is there a
Hmm.
chance to lose? Probably, right? And
Absolutely.
I just it kind of really makes a lot of sense why people like me and you maybe found this space attractive early on. I know that early on I didn't have that much invested. On a personal level, I was just putting in a little bit at a time after my first $1,000 investment way back when in the end of 2013, right before it dropped. I guess around 80%.
Yep.
And, but I kept adding to it, but I saw the potential that one day maybe it'll be $1,000 again, or maybe it'll
Hmm.
be $10,000. Oh my gosh, David, could you imagine Bitcoin at $10,000? We're all going to be rich, right? These are conversations I actually had with people back when Bitcoin was only a
Oh
few
yeah.
$100, right? Or when it got
We had that conversation at $800. You and I did.
exactly right,
I mean,
exactly.
it's insane. I mean, I found crypto, I found Bitcoin, if you will, from gambling. Black Friday happened, online gambling. I couldn't make sports bets anymore in the US. I couldn't play cards anymore in the US. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to start going to more local games and do what I have to do. And then,
You meant
buddy,
like on the internet, you couldn't make any of those.
yeah,
Exactly. Yep.
yeah. So Black Friday came around, the Department of Justice shut down all the websites, blocked all the US citizens and so forth. And my buddy comes up to me, a little while later and it's like, hey man, if you want to play in these games, you have to buy this Bitcoin thing. And then you exchange it for chips and then, whatnot. And I'm like, okay, cool. And this is 2013, 2014, and probably closer to 2014, probably mid 2014. My first tournament I won over 1,000 Bitcoin. Do you understand? Exactly. And I thought, because I didn't dig in super deep or anything, it wasn't until about 6 months later when I realized it, but I just thought it was a way to circumvent, issues
Sure.
and
They were like
things.
poker chips themselves back then, though. I mean, like most people
Yeah,
saw it as such.
exactly. I did not understand, nor did I really even look into the backbone. What is it? What is blockchain and everything? If I knew now what I knew, or if I knew then what I knew now,
Of course.
I would be on a very massive yacht in my private island and doing good for everybody. But there comes time to live and learn, And
For sure.
for me, I didn't buy my first Bitcoin till late 2017. I was mining. I mined from late 15 through 2017 before I even bought my first Bitcoin.
Wow. I didn't even
Yeah.
know that about you.
Yeah. That's how I learned to trade. I took profits, pay the bills, whatnot, took profits and tried to understand trading and everything like that. And I've always been a kind of a fan of, don't buy a steak, buy the whole cow,
Sure,
So I
sure.
figured, okay, if there's these things I can buy that generate revenue, they kind of warm up my house in winter. So it
Yeah,
works,
fair enough. Yep.
you know?
No, it makes a lot of sense, David. And again, we've been friends for some time, and I didn't realize that you were mining that long ago, and it makes sense now. I mean, obviously, we've had pretty deep conversations. Just skip down on that. You may have even told me at some point, but I can say this, and I can say it pretty, profoundly that. The type of individual in the risk assessment, or at least the ability to have risk inside you. I know a lot of people who just simply don't have that in them. They just want to be
Yep.
safe. And you know what? Those people are probably going to be just fine. They don't necessarily need Bitcoin.
100%.
And I have no problem with people who look at, and I'm just talking about on the investment side. I'm not talking,
Mhm.
and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm somebody who
Mhm.
loves this space. I'm somebody who's been relatively successful in this space, and and I appreciate what it's done for me, and I like to pass on the word, right? And I like to give people some insight on how this happened. And I just really like talking about it. It's my passion. I like to share this information. But I
Mhm.
wouldn't do this if I thought that there was some negative aspect to it. I'm morally and ethically grounded a certain way where I believe what Bitcoin is going to do for the world is bring about a brand new way of thinking. It already is. And I can see it in just about every person that I deal with, even if we're politically on different sides of the aisle. I still don't have a problem with getting along with them because we see this bigger picture. And
Yep.
that's what, especially in the United States, I think we're missing so much of this reconciliation. We just really need to understand we've got to come together at some point. We've got to reconcile these differences. We've got to figure out they're not as big as the media makes it sound. And how do you do that? By finding a unifying factor. and that is this decentralized aspect. And if there's a single person on this planet that does not understand what I mean by that, please feel free to contact me and I will explain it word for word. You'll understand exactly what I mean on a basic and conceptual level. I have no problem. It's my favorite thing to do is explain why Bitcoin's important.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's something that honestly, before it came about, I never thought we would see. I couldn't comprehend because of media and just the how the globe works in finance as well as commodities and shipping and transportation. I never thought it was possible to get a vast group of people to accept that this thing that we have is worth X amount of dollars. I mean, that's essentially what we're doing is no one, it's I make an agreement with you. This thing, we'll call it Bitcoin, is worth whatever right now, depending on the exchange, $10,285. That's US dollars. That's one Bitcoin being worth 10,285 times more valuable than the US dollar.
I know. I love saying it like that.
I mean, that says something. If you just take that statement for what it is, sit back and think about that, that should be enough to start really digging in deeper. And here's a little spoiler alert. It's a rabbit hole. And if you get bit by the bug, you will go down that rabbit hole and end up like you and I, both left successful careers and businesses to pursue this, whatever this is in this space, to be a part of this space full time and try to make heads or tails of it.
It's a great point, David. And I love, comparing the US dollar, to what Bitcoin is. And I really like to make, and I don't know if you share the same sentiment, as far as, worth and, the deflationary aspect of what Bitcoin does and the amount of time that Bitcoin has been around, only 10 years, right? And how much worth and how much value humans have perceived it to be, it's like, you can't deny it anymore. You can't tell me that it's not relevant. You can't tell me that it's not going to continue to be around because there is no answer to it. There is no person to answer for it. It is this anomaly now that was created by a anonymous person or group that, gave it to the world. And although they did put some aside, they had no idea it was going to be this price. At least I wouldn't. If I was Satoshi, there's no way I could have thought it was going to be $10,000.
No, not at that point.
They probably would have been happy with $1 10 years later.
If you could tell me that something that's worth a hundredth of a penny turns into $1 in 10 years, that's amazing.
Exactly right. But what does differentiate the people like us who've been able to buy in is not a better or worse quality. In fact, it's probably gotten us into trouble at times, has it not, David, to be a little too risky. And I'll be the first person to dive in without thinking about something at times. And and I've never encouraged people to just think like me on that level. I can say, I don't like the comparison of Bitcoin to the US dollar in the sense of there are not the same thing. There's nothing more convenient than taking $1 and going to get a Coke and not having to worry about anything else. I like having the ability to transact in cash as well. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And as long as you realize that the US dollar and the fiat that we use, whether you're in Europe, whether you're in the United States or wherever you might be in China, Canada, that these are just, notes that are designed to represent value and they're not actually valuable, it still isn't that easy to get. Like people, you're still trying to get your fiat, right? You still have to have fiat to live too. I mean, at least on a normal level. And it's like, and I compare it to this. If everybody in the world was a deer hunter, there wouldn't be very many deer.
No.
Right? No. You could only do that for a little bit. So 7 billion people in this world, there's probably 300 million deer. Okay, I mean, and I'm just guessing. I have no idea how many deer.
Sure.
And I'm including moose and elk and blacktail, whitetail, etc. But everybody was out there hunting deer. There would not be enough deer to sustain a world population. So I say that like Bitcoin right now. You don't have to have a whole world using Bitcoin or spin Bitcoin for this thing to be relevant. In fact, if we all were trying to use Bitcoin, it might even become a disaster immediately, just because the world's not set up for it. So what did we do instead of deer hunting? We created this opportunity for farms to have a bunch of cows or to have a bunch of chickens, and they mass produce these animals, or they mass breed them, and they provide us with the ability to just have as much food as we want. I mean, like, at no time have I ever gone to a store or to downtown, David, and not been able to figure out if I could eat, right?
Yep.
I mean, have you ever run into that issue in your whole life?
No, I've been hangry before where I couldn't,
Sure.
couldn't get there fast enough, but there's
Fair.
always been food waiting for me.
Exactly.
You
Somewhere,
know,
somewhere in a vicinity of a relatively, I
very
guess,
close.
and not just like close, but convenient as well.
Sure.
You could go get
Absolutely.
McDonald's, or you could go get something. And I know,
Absolutely.
I need to connect this point too before I lose everybody. The reason why I'm comparing it to this is that, Bitcoin isn't ready to just be used by everybody. There's some scalability and there's some technology that needs to be figured out to make this easy. And not only easy, but, fast enough for today. I mean, if you're comparing Bitcoin to going to use your debit card at the gas station, you're going to lose. I mean, if you're defending Bitcoin.
Well, it depends. It depends on actually how you use that. Because if you use like a credit card, the on the receiving end, the whoever owns the gas station, they're actually not getting that money for like 2 or 3 days
Sure.
because that's to
It's
go
just
through.
honored. Yes, it's just honored.
Yes, it's just honored. So, but I definitely see what you're saying, and it's right. I don't, and honestly, like I don't want to be like the spoiler alert. I don't think Bitcoin's going to be that. I don't think
Either.
Bitcoin's going to be that daily transacted currency, if you will.
I don't think it should be.
No, no. I mean,
I compare it to gold, man. Like, I mean, do you want gold?
Yeah.
Of course. I think Bitcoin has so much more growth in front of it than gold ever will. But, gold is also really, really prevalent in this world. It's also essentially unlimited as far as humans are concerned in the universe. And
Yeah.
Bitcoin is not, right?
Yeah.
Even in our core, you could go down there and probably find a bunch of gold, right? I think that's what they told us. There's a bunch of gold down there. But regardless, Bitcoin should be compared to gold, though, in the sense that it is inconvenient. It is slow. It is not something you're going to go to the gas station and like chip off. Like, I'm talking about gold here. You're not going to go to the gas station with an ounce of gold, and get a hammer and chisel. And I use this example all the time, and break off a little piece, weigh it. When there's too much, you're going to break off a little more. Oh shoot! Now I broke off too much. Now I got to add a little piece. No, nobody gives a shit about doing that with their gold. And I'm not going to spend my gold. I'm going to hold my gold, right? And there's a reason for that. And that's how I look at Bitcoin. And you know what? Without fiat, there is no Bitcoin, or there's no value. And I don't hate fiat the way some people do. I just recognize it, and I'm realistic about the idea that, that's all we ever known.
Yep. It's definitely a whole new mindset. You have to understand micro and macroeconomics to really get the full understanding of what Bitcoin is doing as a whole. And then at that point, you start to understand, like, originally, yes, it was perhaps, going to be that daily digital currency, but now how it's evolved, I mean, I don't see it as that daily digital currency. However, I do see it as that thing that you can tap into where it's like, hey, I just want to buy this house. So I'm willing to trade my how many Bitcoin for that house. I'm willing to trade my how many Bitcoin for that car.
And what's the most beautiful part about that? Permissionless. Right?
Yeah.
Permissionless.
I would love to be able, and my wife and I actually, we've been talking about this for a while. Like, we're in our area, the housing is going really, really well. My city was one of the hottest real estate markets in the month of July in the nation, which is great. So we're sitting here looking around, and it's like, man, like, I wish I could take crypto, buy a plot of land, pay my builder to build my house, and then have him transfer the rights to me on blockchain. I would not need a bank. I would not need a processor, whatnot. I would just need a miner to mine the transaction, and a ledger to be keeping track of for the ownership of my house. I'd love to be able to do that.
Yep. And David, it's about 25 years ahead of its time, but it's coming.
I hope.
I hope it's less, obviously, but no,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. But what's so hard to get through to people is why that matters. Like, why is that a big deal? And, to the average person, especially an American, you can't explain that. Like, you cannot go to an average American and explain that through experience. But go up to somebody in Zimbabwe, right, who has had their land taken by, this warlord. And, I'm not picking on Zimbabwe or anything. I just know that they're famous for their $1 trillion bill. So I like to use them a lot. But, there's a lot.
I wanted one of those.
Dude, I want one too. I think they're only I think they're selling for like $10 now or something on eBay. Someone was telling me about it, but I don't know how much they actually are. But regardless,
Yeah.
I see, average Americans, and I try to explain to them what the blockchain can do and how it can guarantee through a trustless smart contract that not only is the transaction going to happen, but that it's there forever. And you can
Mhm.
always go back and track that. And it does take the cooperation of essentially the planet to get on the same page as that. But it starts one by one, little by little. We put ourselves in a position where we're promoting this type of transaction. Now,
Mhm.
as my interview with John McAfee went, he brought up some really good points. And that is, and this is something that I had not, I don't want to say I didn't know it because obviously this is common sense as if you're in Bitcoin and blockchain, that is. But if you're using and you're taking Bitcoin as a serious currency, well, you know what? Then you have privacy concerns of your own that you have to
Mhm.
worry about because now they can see everything that's ever come in and out of your wallet. There's no disguising it, there's no hiding it, and there's no privacy with it. Now, I'm not saying that you have to hide it or disguise it. I'm just saying, I don't want people to know how much money I got. I don't want David Hoverman to know how much money I got. Not because I don't trust you. In fact, you're one of the few people in this world that I do trust. But it's
Sure.
still my own, and I don't want people to know because it could get out, and then I'm either a fraud or I'm at risk now because I have this amount of money. I mean, there's just a lot, David, here that does have to be fixed for this to be honestly usable.
Yep. But the good thing is there's enough people here now, and there's been enough of an evolution in the past decade, in which it's crazy to think it's been over a decade, almost 11 years now. But there's enough people in here now, both on just the grassroots level as well as the institutional level, that are actually trying to fix this. Privacy coins, maybe not so much on the institutional level, but there's some great privacy coins out there that are fair launch, no ICO, no whatnot, no developer fee or whatnot, and privacy is an issue. But I think you bring up a great point. When you go to pay for that Coke down the road and you hand somebody $1, it's not like they know what's in your checking account just by looking at that dollar. But if you send them, something from your wallet, then they can go look at your wallet and say, oh, Joe's got all of this.
Sure. Yep. Now there is ways to disguise this, obviously, and I did mention that, and not in a
Yeah.
in a situation where I'm doing anything wrong, but just out of there's a reason why people don't want you to know that you have $1,000 cash on you, right? You're now
Yeah.
a target, right? So
Yep.
knowing that and being aware that we have to be able to protect ourselves, and whether you're using Monero or Apollo or some other privacy coin or Verge or whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
there's opportunities to put yourself in a position to be a little bit more silent in how you interact and transact with people. But this is all stuff that will be fixed, and that's what I
Absolutely.
try to remind people is that it will be fixed with necessity. So if you're in this space and you're not supporting the growth and at least giving constructive criticism, if you have a problem with a coin, you don't
Mm-hmm.
go up there and say it sucks unless they're truly a scam project. There's an
Sure.
obvious difference. But there's so much hatred coming right now for these projects. I just can't stand it. I cannot stand the idea that people are now protecting people from losing money. That can be misinterpreted, and I understand that there's a lot of people who are trying to make sure that people aren't going to get burned right now, and they
Sure.
act like the good guy, and maybe they are the good guy. I have no problem
Sure.
with that. But you're also doing this in a way that does not, you don't ever bring up the other side of this, which is there are things that are being built. At some point there will be another alt season. It could be 15 years from now. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I doubt it's going to take that long. I know me and you might disagree on time frame, but I'm
Sure.
personally buying up certain altcoins, and I'm not going to say their names. I'm not trying to induce some pomp or alt season or anything, but I do know for a fact that there is things happening within projects because it's public, and they are doing things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you just brought up a coin that was who was it? You just brought up a really credible name of some sort. They were working with
Komodo.
somebody. Komodo, yeah, working with Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
They didn't
incredible.
even they didn't even release that. Like, it wasn't like a huge PR release or anything like that. Usually when you get, an altcoin to come out there and say, hey, we just signed so and so, it's
Well,
like
I didn't
there's
even know about it. So I
yeah.
mean,
Well, I
that's
mean,
amazing.
there are certain companies who have like a pre-announcement, then the announcement of the announcement, and then all of a sudden the announcement
Tron.
comes out. I mean, whatever, that. But yeah, they didn't even announce it. And I'll be 100% candid. I own zero Komodo right now. 100% candid. And I'm not trying to pump my bag or anything. I actually am currently in a short position that probably closed or is going to be closing here relatively soon. But nonetheless, I only hold Bitcoin or USD or Bitcoin. That's it currently.
Yeah, I wish I could share that. No, although I have a lot of my stash in Bitcoin. I
Sure.
definitely got stuck with a lot of bags, and I just haven't needed to sell them. I'm
Yeah.
not saying if I could do things differently, would I? Yeah, probably. Right. There's no
Hindsight's always
question about that.
2020.
But I also am very proud of being a holder. I'm very proud of not because I think holding was what you should have done or anybody else, but because I think with my stage and like the amount of love and the excitement I would get behind, certain coins. And looking back, obviously I would even do that differently. I just didn't realize people were listening to me for a long time.
Sure.
But I still felt like it was my duty to stand by a lot of these projects, and some of them I am very not happy with, obviously. But I paid my price. But all right, so let's kind of move into this. We don't have too much time left, David, and
Sure,
I
man.
enjoy this conversation tremendously, obviously. And
We need to do it more often is what we need to do.
of course.
And we'll be able to do this right next to each other here in about a month.
Yes, we will.
Hopefully.
No, for sure.
Okay.
And speaking of that, the reason why I even brought up DBet and what they were doing is because I've actually been selected and invited to play in the Fortnite crypto championships with the Litecoin Foundation, who picked DBet out to do
Nice.
that, which is amazing. And I was so proud.
Yeah.
Jed called me. I was like, dude, I've got to play. He's like, bro, I got you a seat. You're coming. I'll
That's
save you.
awesome.
I'll save you an opportunity to come in. I think
That's
the tickets are like $100 or something like that. It's not that big of a deal, as far as how much it costs. But Vegas is going to add up. I'm not. That's one of the reasons why. Like we were talking off camera, I was like, dude, I've got to make some money. I'm going to be spending so much because I'm so excited about all the events in Vegas.
Let me tell you, from last year, there's a small group of us that we played. I played in the poker tournament, which is great. That was fun. Set the main table with Phil Hellmuth, who is a trip. Cool. It was amazing. As a poker player myself, it was really cool to be there. But it doesn't
get cooler than that though, as far as poker goes, man.
It's pretty awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But there's a select few people who were on fire throwing dice, and I'm talking like stupid fire. Like I in 15 minutes I turned 100 into 800, and I just scooped that cash. And it was I'll make sure that you're around for that, because it was when you have a group of people surrounding you throwing dice, and it's not just like 5 or 10 people, it's like 100 people, and people are just screaming,
going crazy. I mean, dude, it's how much fun is that though? Like, I live for that moment. It's just great.
Yeah, it's a blast. Bunch of degenerate gamblers we are.
Well, and look, I want to make sure everybody knows, nobody here is playing with money they can't lose. Like you just said, you're playing with $100, you made $800. It's not like you're going in there walking up with 10 grand trying to make sure that you pay your bills next month.
No,
obviously that's not the case. And we're just talking about things that are fun. And in crypto, there's a lot of people who like to waste a lot of money doing things on a really high level because they got rich a long time ago, and it's fun to be around those people. But that's not the common instance. And you got to be really careful and be very responsible with not only your crypto but with your fiat. You got to balance this. And I know both of us have gone through having to help other people and explain, look, we're not sitting here betting all of our stash on one altcoin. Like even if you do that, you're crazy. You got to be responsible.
There is inherent risk in any market that you're involved with. In an early stage, up and coming market like blockchain, like cryptocurrency, even though it's been around a decade, in the grand scheme of things, it's only been around a decade. There is inherent risk, and the risk is relatively high. We've seen $20,000 and we've seen $3,000. I mean,
no, dude, exactly.
That's
exactly.
real.
Yeah, no,
I got waxed over that. Let's be real honest.
I'll give it. It was only like an $800 move, which is unfortunate for you. But I just remember watching that ticker like go down. Oh my gosh, it's gonna close on the day chart. It did it. Oh, I think it was 4 hours. Was it 4 hour chart?
It was a 4 hour bar. Yeah.
Oh, David, I did not feel bad for you.
Oh, I know you didn't feel bad for me. Let me tell you 2 stories about that. I earlier in the year it was actually last year at World CryptoCon Vegas. I had the opportunity. I've been working a little bit behind the scenes, trying to get to know more about the Raven coin and what they were doing and everything. Absolutely. And I got to meet Tron Black, and he and I had a friendship, and so I talked with him. I still talk with him daily, or not daily, but weekly almost. Yeah, and he sends me a message as that move is happening. Mind you, he's on vacation, in like Australia or something. And all of a sudden, it's like middle of the night. I'm sleeping and I hear ding, my phone goes off. Tron's like, "Hey, buddy, don't look at the charts." It's like, really? And yeah, that was when it happened.
At some point, by the way, you had to have seen the. I probably messaged you 25 times. I know for a fact. I remember where I was when it happened, and I had been drinking a few vodka tonics, so I was a little excessively excited.
Yeah, you were.
I mean, privately, obviously. I mean, I don't want to just say privately because I tagged you like 25 posts on CCT as well.
It was very awesome. Well known that what was happening.
Bro, somebody asked, literally, I deleted the post just because it was people were being hateful. I don't know if you saw it, but it was like middle of the night one night. I was up, it was like 2:00 in the morning, and someone made a post about, so David still hasn't got waxed yet, and there was like 10 people who were just like, "You're an asshole." It was just causing problems.
Wow.
I wrote the guy. I was like, dude, he got waxed. Like, I mean, I think it's been like, what is it, 4 months now?
It's been a while.
It had to be March-ish, I assume, maybe April. It was before consensus.
It was after consensus. I couldn't before consensus because I had a bunch of meetings and I didn't want to be that guy.
Because you're going to show them your pubes, but
no, but I'm having business meetings. I don't want to be the guy walking up to a business meeting and have them look at me and be like, "Oh, you're the guy that just had his just got waxed by his
Brazilian
wife."
Brazilian waxed. Yeah. No. Well, first off, David, did I ever not understand those reasons?
No, dude, you were 100% on board, and there was you never even doubted that I wasn't going to do it, which is more than most people, because everybody was calling me out. Yeah,
most people don't know you like me, but it was fun watching people call you out. I mean, like, I was enjoying it. Number one, because I knew it wasn't that serious, right?
Yeah.
I mean, had you not done it, it wouldn't be me you'd have to be accountable to. You know, it's the entire community at that point. And
never a doubt.
And I've openly admitted to you and everybody else that, you know, you kind of wanted a chance for redemption.
Yeah.
And I'm just not that interested.
You've been really uninterested. Every time I brought up, like, "Hey, I got a new idea for a bet. Hey, I got this really good idea." After seeing what I went through,
Dude,
I understand.
You scared me.
I scared you. Look, my wife comes at me with something in her hands that looks like a wax strip. I get PTSD.
I don't blame you. And, like, you know, I was even, I think we've had this conversation at some point when we were, you know, drinking or something along those lines, but, you know, like, you're not I mean, like, the chances of you making any more babies just based off of fear of that area and what your wife's done might have decreased quite a bit. I hope not. But no. I can't see another human not at least remembering that forever.
The good thing is we have two. We have a healthy girl and a healthy boy, and that's good. I mean, that's good. There's no more coming out there. But I will tell you this: I was on Twitter not too long ago, and you should find this hysterical. I was on Twitter making some comments and whatnot, and all of a sudden I get this DM pop up. Someone I've never talked to before.
Yeah.
And it was something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm sorry if this is rude, but I think I saw you in a crypto group called CCT Get Waxed. Are you that person? If not, don't worry about it." Yes. This person lives in South Africa and never met them before, never talked to them before.
That's a beautiful story.
I get to meet this person in Las Vegas, but yeah, you know, apparently, you know, paying up on a bet
gets around, bro. Hey, well, first off, the best thing you can do is make good on your bet in crypto because nobody else does. Right?
Nobody does. And nobody does.
And as you noted, you know, in our situation, I always knew that it was going to happen, and I understood there was reasons you were losing money. You were trying to look professional. You didn't want to be just stuck there getting Brazilian waxed in front of all of CCT, taking credibility away from you or in any way. And of course, I adore your wife, Brooke, and your kids, and you guys, you'll have a wonderful thing going on for you. And I would never want to be even remotely responsible for not helping, if anything else, just not affecting you whatsoever, right?
Sure.
So at minimum, I don't want to affect you negatively in any way. So just not affecting you is great, but without it being positive, for sure. But once you were able to get past a certain point and you guys were able to raise and, you know, and get that, and you were like, okay, look, it's fine. I've let everybody that needs to know it's going to happen. And we got to that point. It was one of my favorite moments in crypto ever. I laughed for a week straight, David, And I can't thank you enough for not being me, right? I'm so glad it was you. I'm so glad that day I wasn't too drunk and on the opposite side of that and losing to somebody else, because it could have been. I mean, it was just a flip of a coin, essentially. I thought I felt sentiment going out, but it didn't matter, you know?
I have never seen so much joy out of your face, out of my wife's face,
Ashes,
out of
Todd's,
Ashes, Todd.
Ben Barlow.
Oh, I mean, everybody, Rostic. I mean, all you guys look like kids on Christmas morning.
Yeah, Rostic
And
was on there. I forgot. That was hilarious.
Yeah. So I think because you are, a stand-up guy, and we've been friends for some time, and I think it's time now for round two, Joe. I think it's time for people listening to this podcast and the people at Bitcoin Radio. I think, maybe we do a shave bet, because you and I both have some your
I
beers.
just shaved, though. I just trimmed it up a lot.
Yeah, I know. It's not
Eyebrows. Now, hey, remember this, David. I think I was like back when that bet was happening, I was not sitting here being like, hey, let's get Brazilian waxes. That was your idea.
It was I didn't realize there's a difference between like a bikini or a Brazilian.
Well, regardless,
Yeah.
I think one of my suggestions was shaving a Bitcoin B in the side of the head.
Yeah.
Another one
Yeah.
was eyebrows, or like something in the eyebrows. Dyeing your hair, that came up, and basic things that you cover with a hat, right?
Your ideas were very sensible. I might have had a couple nice scotches that evening, maybe, I don't know. Either way, sure. I had terrible decisions. I had terrible suggestions that just happened to catch. So
I was also really confident that it was going to go up too, like for no reason. I just knew that it was going to go up, and so I was like, okay, let's do it. I didn't want to do monetary bet for purposes of I'm not trying to encourage that type of behavior. It's not responsible, I don't think.
No.
We shouldn't have people betting against each other about which way it should go up. It should be fun in nature, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what we did. And so your Brazilian wax, all
Can't
those.
say that enough, can you?
No, I'm enjoying it every moment, especially as we wind down. I'm liking this opportunity to just remind you of all that fun that everybody else on planet Earth was having except you. You were the only one who didn't enjoy that experience.
Well, I've got a little prize for people coming out here soon. I've edited it down, making a little fun of it. I think one of our friends has sent me a couple different memes of myself with just some screenshots of that. And
when you think Bitcoin is going to go down, this is what your face is.
Well, I don't think we'll ever see that price again, to be honest. So that's the beauty of it. I think, honestly, if we go down again after the next big run up, whatever, which is, it's going to be a big run up, I think we're going to come back down. But I don't think we'll ever see sub 6K again.
No, I think it's fair. No, and I honestly believe that we could see an $8,000 bottom even on this move. But we're coming to. I mean, I was looking at the Bollinger Bands even today. We're tight, and I mean we're wedging hard right now, and there's definitely some move going to happen. So we're either going to go down to 8 or we're going to surprise. Like Bitcoin never does what people think it's going to do, especially on a big level. And I remember at even $5,000 or $6,000, we should have retraced back down to 3,800 or whatever it was. I mean, I'm like, come on. Like people just realize and I know you have a different approach to this than what I'm referring to. I'm just talking about market sentiment on CCT. People think they're so sure, I'm like, just wait, because Bitcoin will always surprise you.
It will surprise you regardless of whatever tools you're using. I mean, our tool itself is for direction is 98% accurate each time, but there's still 2%. I mean, no one's ever 100% guaranteed. Nobody.
Exactly right. Yep.
And that's where it comes down to. It's Bitcoin. It's early. It's interesting to see. What if someone places a market order of $1 million? What can happen? Right.
Yep.
We've seen that. There was, I forget what exchange it was, but I mean, we saw like a $2,000 pump in it was last month. I know what happened a little while ago on Kraken. We saw some really funny charts. That was just an API issue. Yeah, but I mean, there was someone who I think it was on Huobi perhaps or BitHum, but there's someone market bought like $1 million of BTC, and that chart went crazy.
Exactly
You
right.
know,
Especially
so
on the exchanges that don't have as much, like, Ben Barlow, who's taught me a lot about trading, and that's who I tend to lean on him, especially when I'm, even I mean, I still ask stupid questions at times about trading, and
we all do.
I need to be reassured. And Ben has always been not only is my best friend, but he's also, a really great trader. And I've been fortunate to benefit from him and his advice in a lot of different ways. And so, listening to him and why things happen this way, I'm always like disagreeing with him. Imagine that, right? I'm like, Ben, no way it's going down. He's like, looking dumpy. I'm like, stop saying that word. Golly,
Yep.
I hate the way you say it. You're like so excited about it going down. He's like, I just
Mhm.
go with what the market says. If it looks great, I'm gonna say it's looking pumpy. I'm like, F you, Ben. It's not going down. It's going up. I'm adding to my long position. He's like,
Yep.
oh, I wouldn't do that, Joe. I'm like, F you, Ben. I don't care. He's like, this isn't personal, Joe. Stop getting
Yeah.
personal. I'm like, no, you could go S the D. I don't care what you have to say.
Yep.
He's like, all right. Okay, Joe. I mean, I don't know what else I can tell you. I'm like, that's what I thought. You shut up. Watch it go up. And next thing you know,
Going down.
either stop loss or licked bad.
Yep. Yep.
And anyways, that's just a shout out. Ben is he is as rational and unemotional as you can be trading as I know of anybody besides
Yeah.
an AI robot, maybe like Ash Rolston. I know she's not even a human.
I mean, Ash is a hologram. That's all I gotta say. She's not real. She's real, but she's not real.
Agreed.
And Ben, I understand. I've been hounding on Ben. Just you probably saw it in our chat earlier this week. Like, Ben, why are you working? Why don't you just come and trade with me?
Yep.
And he's helping out his crew and everything like that. And I get it, but it's like I want to trade with Ben because he is exactly as you put it. No motion is what
Rational.
it is.
Yep.
And I want to get him on there just to have a live trading session with him and just to have some fun with it.
And I was talking a bit about this. I'm just not a good enough trader, David. And you can take this idea and run with it. Maybe I'll come join you if you ever do anything with this. But I've always just thought, like you go listen to a sports game, right?
Mhm.
And you can listen to it on the radio, and you can understand what's happening in the game. You don't have to be watching it to understand. You could be driving to the store or driving on a 10-hour road trip. You can listen to a football game or a baseball game, and some announcers telling you what's going on. And you don't necessarily need to be watching it for you to understand or to be okay with what's happening. You
Yes.
can enjoy the game or whatever. I mean, I would straight up listen to some sort of person just talking about what the price of Bitcoin is on different exchanges. That way, if I opened up a long order on like 5x leverage where I'm not going to get liquidated right away and I'm taking a longer position for a week or so or within a week, and I'm going to go ahead and because I think it's at the right area, or maybe I'm just impatient. I just buy and I put it on 2 or 3x leverage and I can add to it over the day. If I can listen to somebody just talk about the price of Bitcoin, I would do it. I mean, it's all I would listen to, honestly. It'd be in my ear the whole time. That way I don't have to look at the charts. I can do other things. I could go play my game. I could drive. I could eat dinner. I could have one ear pod in and just be listening while, and I could hear it. If it's going down, I need to go sell my shit,
Well, I mean, you'd have to have somebody, they'd probably be scanning the 5 minutes up to the 1 hours, maybe even some 4 hours talking about longer positions and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that would be nice.
Bro, you could make a living just talking about Bitcoin trading. I mean, I'm convinced. Like, don't even talk about why. Just be like, hey, this is Joe Blackburn. This is the 1 hour Bitcoin show where I'm going to talk about everything that Bitcoin's doing right now. Now,
Yep.
Joe Blackburn is not the right person to do it because I'm a holder. And I get emotional, which is actually probably what's best for that type of entertainment. But
Yeah.
this it wouldn't be, hey, buy this coin now, sell this coin now. This would be like, okay, you got a bear pivot forming on the 1 hour, although we got a head and shoulder shift forming up on the 15-minute. We're coming up. We'll see at the end of the hour. This is the end of the 4 hour chart. This is what's forming. I mean, like to have that type of commentary would be so freaking convenient for the trader.
Yeah, it would
something
be.
you could do, David.
It would be fun. The problem is like I can be emotionally, unbiased and just play the charts, play our program and go with it. But I don't care who you are. At least for me, I haven't gotten over this yet. when I win a trade, I still act stupid. Like I just hit a parlay. Like I just went 3 on the weekend. I mean,
Absolutely.
I had
go down, go down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Dude, I'm there too.
stupid. My wife has made I have to take my office downstairs to our basement and tape off some registers so I don't wake up our kids, because that's how I am in the middle of the night.
Completely understand. I mean, this is crypto. We live the same life, right?
Yeah.
So,
100%.
anyways, hey, look, we've been doing this for an hour and 10 minutes. I've got to close this off, or we're not going to get listed on iTunes tomorrow. But look, Dave, no, this has been a great conversation, and I have no doubts that we'll have this conversation as soon as possible once again. But as David, as you know, I appreciate your insight. You know, you and Synq, or you guys with Enrique and a few others, you guys are doing great things over there. You're really busting your butt to try to make something work and make it easy enough for everybody to use it. And I'm proud of not only the work you're doing, but of the person you are and the friend that you've always been to me, David. So I appreciate that. Man,
I appreciate that. And it has been a long road, and it's one of those things when you get involved in something, you just kind of dig into a hole for a little bit. But here we are. It's out. It's working. It's self-funded, and it's just evolving and growing, and some fun's on the way.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
maybe we'll have to do some live trading soon, because that's going to be fun for the both of us.
Well, keep in mind, I wasn't saying that we live trade. I was just saying that we commentate on what Bitcoin's actually doing, right? So I think that's, I'm encouraging everybody that I could talk to from here on out to do it, because if somebody does do it, they do a good job. I mean, I don't need to do it, because I'm literally trying to find a reason for somebody else to do it so I can do other things during the day. But anyways,
we'll see.
All right, look, we'll cut it down. Hey, David, in the meantime, where can everybody find you? Give us some spots where they should be looking for you at.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me at David_Hoverman on Twitter. Obviously I'm in CCT, and come check out Synq, our platform, having some fun sale. It just opened up to the public. That's synq.tech. We are a predictive analytics software in crypto. Basically, 2 years of remodeling the traders, the holders, the different consumer types, and the different asset types. And we're doing something that nobody's done before. And the funny thing is that it kind of works. It kind of works well, to the point where we're over 80% accurate. So come check us out there, and hopefully you can come check me back out on Bitcoin Radio here in the near future, when Joe and I start commenting on Bitcoin price action like it's a horse derby.
Well, I was going to ask you exactly, but I was going to not ask you. I was going to mention, if you wonder why I'm not making any more bets with you, you got this little secret weapon over there. Why would I? Right? I mean, I'm not fighting a computer.
It is a cheat sheet, and that's the best part. We actually went on our worst day since May, since we actually turned this on live, across the entire platform. We were 62% accurate, time and price to the hundredth of a penny, across our platform for 100 altcoins, and it has gotten exponentially better. This past week, we were over 90% accurate every single day this week on our projections. So
that's pretty awesome, man, and that's unheard of in this industry.
Oh, it's absolutely unheard of. It's in the traditional finance, you're happy to see 55% accurate in some of these algorithms. Our crazy idea, though, is not hold this all for ourselves and not sell it to a hedge fund and let the retail market use it. So
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, look, I know your contributions have been massive. We got to come up. We're running up on our time here, so I'm going to shut this down. But David, thanks again for coming on. Look, Bitcoin Radio, you know where to find us. We're in Crypto Coin Trader on Bitcoin Radio's Facebook page. If you're not following us on Twitter, Bitcoin Radio, it's at BTC_radio. It's Bitcoin Radio on Facebook. Obviously, I'm the co-founder of Crypto Coin Trader. David's been an instrumental and huge part of that. He's been one of the team members for a very long time. And we're here just trying to build a spot in one way or the next. We're just trying to build a better space. And I ask, what are you doing for the cryptoverse, right? David's doing his part, I'm doing mine. But we can all do something, and be productive in this industry and really build this space up. The one responsibility I always tell everybody that they can have is just make sure you know what you're talking about. Be educated. Make sure that you understand when you're explaining. You don't have to fight with people about Bitcoin. They're either going to like it or they're not. You can't convince them if they already made their mind up for now. They got to figure it out on their own. So just be educated, be patient with people, and know that you weren't always in. If you were in from the beginning, you'd be rich and you wouldn't even have to worry about any of this. But anyways, until next time, this is WBTC, where Bitcoin lives. I am Joe Blackburn. Thank you, David, once again for joining me. Hey, any last words?
Appreciate it, and Joe, always here for you. And
Absolutely.
It's always been a pleasure, and we just need to do this more, man.
One way or the next, we will, David. You have my word. All right.